I'm author and empowerment coach Abiola Abrams, and you're watching The Artists Forum.
Good evening and welcome to the Artists Forum. I'm Alexis Howard, guest host here today. I'm delighted to bring Abiola Abrams, an author as well as an empowerment coach, and we're delighted to have her here with us this evening. Welcome.
Thank you, Alexis. I'm so excited about this conversation.
So tell us a little bit about your new book. We've also learned that you've recently been honored by the African American Literary as a self-help. So share a little bit, share about your book, some of how you evolved into writing this book.
Oh, sure. Well, Alexis, as you alluded to, I'm excited to announce, this is actually the first place where I'm getting to talk about it. I'm humbled and honored to announce that I am the winner of Best Self-Help Book for 2014 from the African American Literary Awards. And I was in incredible sacred company. The other three authors, luminaries who my book was competing against. I say competing in quotes because we're never really competing against anyone except ourselves, as a principle I teach. But the other three authors in the category were Iyanla Vanzant, Russell Simmons, and Bishop T.D. Jakes, and they gave it to the new girl. So,
so congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations,
Thank you so
you're in
much.
good company.
I am in good company. So as you asked, the Sacred Bombshell Handbook of Self-Love is a personal development guide for women that I have reclaimed the word bombshell. The word sacred bombshell means a woman who loves, honors, and cherishes herself, mind, body, and spirit. And it's a self-help guide for people who hate self-help. A lot of us are self-helped out. And it really teaches the feminine principles that a lot of us are lacking in our lives, that in order for us to be better love ourselves as women. And the reason I wrote this book is that, you know, many of us we all grew up with everyone saying, just love yourself, love yourself, love yourself. But no one knows, a lot of us don't know what that means or how to do it. It's such an esoteric thing. So I really wanted to write a handbook or a textbook around what it means to love yourself and how to do it.
So it sounds like there's some skill development, how to do it, how to go about loving yourself. And I love the way you're connecting the body, the mind, and also just in reading a short excerpt, it seems as though you're also connecting the spirit. Can
Absolutely.
you talk a little bit about that connection as well as share some of the principles?
Yes, actually it's a spiritual guide that's like the kind of basis of it. And it was really important for me to do this book. I describe myself as you said, you know, I'm an author, I'm an essence advice columnist, and I'm also an empowerment coach. But I really describe what I do as being a midwife for visionary women to help to launch their big dreams.
Wow.
And and the reason why I describe my work in that way is that my great-grandmother was a midwife in Guyana and a women's fertility healer. And she helped women to give birth to their babies, and I feel like I'm continuing that work, except for the babies are, you know, those dreams that they have, the dreams that we hold on to and hold so dear.
So some of the ideas for the book, were they formed from people in your close circle, just from your own life experiences? How did the principles sort of evolve, you know, into this book and skill development guide, if you could talk to that?
Sure, that's a great question. Actually, it comes from a number of different sources. Working with my one-on-one and group coaching clients, and I also travel around the country giving empowerment talks to women. And so I feel like I have the honor of women bestowing their deepest stories and their deepest fears with me. You know, like I get to hear, you know, people at their worst and the things that, you know, we go through with the big shifts and big changes in life. And so that, it was a big source of what was going on when I developed the principles in the book. The other thing is that, yes, absolutely, I draw from my own life because I'm my reader, that I don't believe in, you know, people who coach or counsel or whatever they do, therapists from on high, that we're all in it together. All of us are human beings, you know, spiritual beings having this human experience, trying to figure it out while we are here on Mother Earth for this short period of time. And so I had, you know, several, you know, very traumatic experiences as an adult. You know, I married the person of my dreams and it didn't work out, you know, for example. And, you know, just things like that, that I felt like I wish that there was a book that just addressed, you know, what a crisis of self-love looks like and, you know, the different ways that it manifests. And so those were some of the places that I drew from to create the book.
So since many of the viewing audience members are emerging artists or artists at different stages in their own development, what would you say, taking just pieces of the book around supporting artists, you know, who sometimes may be down, who need this sense of self-love, and what would be some advice you would take directly from the book?
This is so important to me that, you know, as a matter of fact, I'm giving a seminar coming up at University of Pennsylvania for people who are artists, creatives, and who run heart-centered businesses, that I actually have my MFA, Master's in Fine Arts from Vermont College of Fine Arts, and my bachelor's degree is from Sarah Lawrence, a very strong artist-driven community and school. And both of my parents are writers. My sister is a professional visual artist. And so, you know, I understand the care and feeding of artists, you know, that we are hypersensitive individuals. And because we, as artists, I consider myself as an artist as well, and an art.
Yes, you're creating possibilities for people.
Exactly. And we tend to, you know, as creative people, because what we do is so personal to us, that it's very hard when you say don't take things personally, because the rejection feels so very personal. That I actually, when I, you know, was in college, you know, acted a bit, did commercials and stuff like that. I danced for like I think 8 or maybe 7 or 8 years when I was a teenager, and you know, then was a creative filmmaker, art filmmaker, and went to Germany and shot film. So I understand being an artist, and I think more than anything I say nurture your soul and protect your magic. You can't spread your dreams under everyone's feet. That one of the things that the hardest lessons that I had to learn was that I was speaking to non-visionary people about visionary ideas. And if someone doesn't believe in themselves, there's no way they could believe in your big, bold, beautiful dream. And so just be choosy and be careful with whom you spread your big dreams and your big ideas. Look for like-minded people. You know, thankfully, we live in New York City, the mecca of all kinds of creative artists, you know, and creative people. So find like-minded people. Find people who are doing things as well, because I have, you know, artists from both sides of the experience, people who are doing, you know, nothing, and God bless them, and are like, oh, you know, woe is me, whatever, and then people who are making things happen. And most of all, I would say, don't believe that old paradigm of the starving, broke artist. We need to let that go, because that will keep you nowhere but stuck. If you have in your head that to be a successful artist means that you've got to be, you know, some like broke down tragedy and that's the place to create from, you don't have to seek tragedy. It comes naturally if you live long enough. And so I say reach for the sun, reach for your brightest, most beautiful self, and create work from that place.
Wow.
create
You're
work
such
from
an
that
inspiration, and given your own history in the arts, I mean, definitely you understand it from a personal as well as professional level.
Thank you, Alexis.
Can you talk, when I was reading about you, it was fascinating to learn that some of your own historical background, I know you spoke a little your family of origin, about midwives in the family, and now you're birthing, you know, that's such a very spiritual connotation, right?
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about the influence of culture, the influence of your own family background?
Oh, absolutely.
In your present, you know, in your book, and how that shows up.
It's so important to me, Alexis, the idea of culture and roots, that each of us has, you know, a very rich lineage, and we need to just, you know, kind of, if you are looking for inspiration, look no further than your own family. Figure out what that narrative is, and if you are wanting to reinvent or recreate or rebirth yourself, do that with the knowledge of the narrative, do that with the knowledge of the roots that you spring from, whatever that means for you, you know, and embrace the whole of it. And so I am the first person in my family born in America, actually, and the Guyanese heritage is a very important part of my being, because when I was born, my parents had only been here for a couple of years. And so, you know, it looked like New York City on the outside, but it was Guyana in my house all day, every day, you know. So my first language, I joke, was a Guyanese accent. You know, people tell me they can still hear me with hear an accent when I speak, and I'm like, well, I was born here, you know. The Guyanese culture, my Guyanese culture, weighs in a lot in the book when I talk about things like, for example, the creative power of being able to manifest things in your life. If there's something that you want in your life, being able to manifest your big dream. Both of my grandfathers on both sides were farmers. And so if there's one thing that you know when you're a farmer, when your hands are in the earth, is that life is about seasons. And we all have seasons for when things are working and when things might not. And so you may be plugging away at something and it hasn't broken through yet, but it just may not be your season, and that is okay. And so learning how to work with the earth, learn to work with the seasons in your life, you know, and where you are, rather than working against it, is definitely something that I talk about. One of the principles, the feminine principles in the book that I talk about, is the power of receiving. That we as women, a lot of us are givers, which is a beautiful thing, but you can't give from an empty cup. And so if you don't know how to receive, then you're going to have challenges in, you know, just in life in general. That one of the stories I tell in the book is that my sister-in-law, my brother, he just had a baby. My mom is a grandmother for the first time. And my brother and his wife just had a baby this summer. My beautiful niece, Miss Ava Abrams, prettiest baby you've ever seen in your entire life, I promise you. But when my sister-in-law, Tammy, was pregnant earlier this year, I think it was like in April or May, and she was on the subway going to work. She's a very, like the rest of us, go get it, New York woman, you know, making things happen for herself. I can do it all myself and all of that. And someone offered her a seat on the train, and she didn't accept the seat because she didn't feel comfortable with it. And I use that in the book to talk about how we don't feel comfortable receiving. And if you don't feel comfortable receiving your blessings, you can't allow them in. That it's such a, you know, it sounds basic, right? If you say, can't you, do you feel comfortable receiving? Most people will say, yeah, give me whatever. But most of us can't even receive a basic compliment, much less abundance or prosperity or, you know, the wonderful things that we could have in store for us if we set our minds to it.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. I mean, as women, we're usually nurturers, and then understanding that you can become depleted, right? And so, I wonder if when folks read the book and they say, wow, this is so insightful, I've learned so much about myself, and I think what's important is you have these guiding principles, right, throughout the book. Now I want to have you coach me because I really feel like I need to set some goals, right? Can you talk about that for a moment? Because that's also part of what you do. It is.
It's a big part of what I do. I actually say I do the same exact thing, just in different platforms. So whether I'm writing in my column or working with a woman one-on-one or giving a speech on a stage, doing the same exact thing. And so Usually the women that I work with are very high-powered, extremely successful women who have everything going for them except for what they want at the moment. And what I call that state in the book when people feel depleted and they've given everything is I call it having a dry life crisis.
Okay.
You know, I like to make up terms and have my own, you know, terminology because I feel sometimes, you know, that we need, you know, language to kind of catch up to where we are. And so, you know, we've heard of a midlife crisis and now a quarter life crisis, but sometimes women are in crisis and there's no, you know, discernible reason. So I call that a dry life crisis. And so when I'm coaching a woman one-on-one, and also when I'm coaching in groups, I begin with, you know, where we are. You know, let's take an assessment of where we are. And from there, then I work on building tools toward where you want to be. There's where you are, there's where you want to be. And, you know, we all learned in school the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. Well, not in our lives necessarily. You may wiggle this way and wiggle that way. And
circular.
Around. Yes, exactly.
But let's talk for a moment about some advice you would have for emerging artists, or artists who, as we started to allude earlier, were sort of in a slump.
Yes.
What some coaching, some tips, some very quick tips that you would be able to give? Sure,
this is one of my favorite things to talk about, as you can tell. Number one, I would say that this is specifically for actors. I'll break the advice up for different kinds of artists. So for actors, I know that as a creative person, you feel like you can play anything, and it's the most limiting thing in the world when someone says, well, what is your type? But the casting industry is built on, you know, stereotypes and that sort of thing. So what's really important before you even enter into the industry, or if you're already auditioning, is to have a clear definition of yourself. Define yourself for who you are, you know? There's that that quote by Audre Lorde, if I didn't define myself for myself, I'd be crunched into other people's opinions and eaten alive. It's a rough translation of it, but you know that's really important. That I remember once that this acting teacher, she said, know which one you are. And so what that means is that there are some people who are a Julia Roberts or Sanaa Lathan, you know, leading person type, Denzel Washington, or you know, Idris Elba. And then there's some people that are the funny person, you know, but if we all want to be the leading person, you know, rather than thinking of, you know, the funny friend or whatever it is, that don't think of that as a limit, that you can still take that, whatever that limit would be, and max it out, you know. Look at, you know, a lot of people who are not necessarily leading people, but have created their own work around who they are. So that would bring me to tip number 2, no matter who you are and what kind of creative art you do, to be the master or mistress of your own destiny. Don't leave it up to casting people and curators to decide your destiny. That you can, you know, create your own art exhibit. You can get other artists together and curate a gallery show. That I had a show several years ago that I curated that was at the Chashama Gallery in Manhattan. So create your own destiny, create your own way to go. The next tip that I would give, and this is particularly important for visual artists, is how to document your work and to make sure that you have a prominent online presence. That in this world, if it hasn't happened online and there's not a documentation of it, it didn't happen.
Right.
And so, you know, you may have had like this wonderful experience where all of the artists, you know, came, and I'm with my sister about this all the time. She just got back from a residency in South Korea, and I tell her it's very important that she then document and showcase that work online, because the way that people book and look for new artists or people to write about or interview or whatever is Google. And so Google is not going to find you based on your pictures and your album at home or your experiences with your family. They're going to find you by what is written about you online. So take command of your own destiny and tell your own story.
Excellent advice. I want to back up for a minute, because the title deals with the concept of self-love.
Yes.
It's interesting how you incorporated self-love with bombshell.
Yes.
And what our views may be of that terminology, right, as it relates to women.
Yes.
Can you talk for a moment about that? Because I also hear you talk about empowerment specifically for women, and it's about women.
Yes.
So can you just talk about that. 'Cause some of
Sure.
what you spoke about earlier, you
Yeah.
know, artists and sort of
Yeah.
feeling that sense of love, right?
Yes, 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 yes. Well, the book features profiles from several different women who I define as sacred bombshells. And so there's Zora Neale Hurston. They're the traditional bombshells like Marilyn Monroe and Halle Berry. And we love those kinds of bombshells. But when I'm talking about sacred bombshells, like I said, I'm talking about a woman who loves, honors, and cherishes herself, mind, body, and spirit. And so it's kind of taking the language that people have become comfortable with in one context, you know, where the imagery of like the Beyoncés and the Nicki, you know, it's like a kind of sexualization of women that's being presented with the body without the mind and the spirit. And so I wanted to take that and recreate that and, you know, own it and put it in a positive context.
That's great. So that women leave sort of reading the book feeling that they can be a bombshell.
Yeah,
It's not about the physical. It's about it's about the, as you said, the context of all three.
Absolutely, and even in the book, you know, one of the only places where I mention anything physical is that there's one of the principles in the book is a chapter on Nizhani, which is a Native American term, Navajo term that means beauty, and I've used it to mean beauty as a spiritual practice. And so I talk about in the book, you know, how beauty, using beauty as a spiritual practice rather than a way to judge and define yourself or judge and define other people and limit your view of yourself in the world. You know, like I wanted us to widen the ways that we look at ourselves and to realize that, you know, that we have more power than we know. And it was just really important to write this book because I saw a study that was done that said with all of the gains that women have, you know, gotten in the whole past 40 years, you know, my whole life, all of the things, wonderful things that have happened for women, that they're still more unhappy than ever before in our history, which is insane to me. Insane. And I feel like it's, you know, for the reasons of feeling depleted, for the reasons of feeling less than, that there really is a self-love crisis going on. And it manifests in different ways. For some people, it looks like teen pregnancy. For some people, it looks like being afraid to get up and get that promotion. For some people, it looks like, you know, being afraid to speak up and say no when you mean no. Or in some people, it means being afraid to say yes when you mean yes. So it just shows in different ways in our lives. You know, but there's a self-love solution for every challenge almost.
So I'm thinking as you're talking too, it seems like excellent should be required reading for our young sisters out there.
Well, thank you for saying that. Yes,
who are struggling with identity and some of these issues you're talking about, really.
Yes, I'm actually going to be writing a new edition just aimed at young women because I've had a lot of moms contact me and say, I read this and
I'm thinking my daughter needs it, right?
And so I'm writing a version specifically for young women. Like there's a book, do you know Rilke's Letters to a Young Poet?
Yes.
I'm writing Letters to a Young Bombshell. And it's different letters to, you know, young women around everything from body image to, you know, just how you live your life, the quest for excellence and what that means and, you know, how you should feel about yourself, not letting the media define you. Because if they tell you, you know, it's great when we look and the media says, now Lupita's beautiful and Beyonce's beautiful, we say, yay, but what happens when they tell us we aren't? If you believe them when, you know, so learning how to be self-defining rather than outwardly defining.
Yeah, so now we have to do some advocacy work to make sure that it's required reading.
Yes, yes, we do.
Not just for the moms who have read it, but really can reach a wide audience because I think it's definitely necessary and timely.
One of the really exciting things that I have coming up in 2015 is that I'm going to be leading, and actually two more at the end of this year, I'm leading a number of retreats for women where I can then spend a whole weekend really working with them to get to the source of, one retreat is around fear, being able to release fear. One is around body image issues that we have and being able to feel comfortable.
Excellent for self-esteem development. Please share with our viewing audience how we can get in touch with you if we want to participate in the retreat. Also, do you expand your coaching to include males?
Well, men are welcome at the group events. And I generally don't work with men one-on-one.
Okay.
I have made a couple of exceptions, but I usually work with women. And so if people are looking to get in contact with me, I'm at abiolatv.com, where the TV stands for Transformation and Victory, and sacredbombshell.com to celebrate the book. Those are the easiest ways. And I'm throughout social media. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, wherever at Abiola TV. So those are the easiest ways. I'm easy to find.
This is wonderful. I mean, the viewing audience certainly cannot feel your energy as I can, and I'm just, delighted and honored to be part of it, right? It's very positive energy, motivating. You're such an inspiration to us. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Absolutely.
So any final thoughts?
Yes.
We all want to read the book. We all want you to start some book clubs on it so that we can kind of give you feedback on our thoughts. And it's great how you're having another edition for another audience.
Yes.
Any final thoughts for our audience?
Absolutely. Well, if you're wanting to start a book club, definitely get in touch. I'm going to be having an online book club in 2015 to offer support, all kinds of exciting things, abiolatv.com. And my final bit of advice would be, if you are raising a daughter, we were talking about mothers and daughters, that you loving yourself and nurturing and taking care of yourself is just as important, if not more important, as they grow, for them to see where your boundaries are and how you live. Because many of us, if a mother doesn't love herself, she can't teach the daughter to love herself. She may want to, but she can't, because she doesn't have it, and we can't give what we don't have.
Exactly.
So those would be my final thoughts.
Great advice. Again, those of you who are not here cannot feel this energy that Abiola has. It's so positive and so bubbly, and we are certainly very delighted that you could join us this evening. We're all excited, both for you. Congratulations to you again on your new honor and self-help book, and we're all looking forward to reading it and hearing more exciting news coming from you. So thank you again for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me.
The Artist Forum.
Get connected.
Be heard. The Artist Forum is a place where artists of all disciplines can network, collaborate, and showcase their work.
On the Artist Forum's AFTV, you'll see interviews with New York's emerging talents in theater, dance, music, visual arts, the written words, as well as insights from industry insiders.
Watch us on MNN Channel 4 every other Thursday at 7:30 p.m. I'm Elliot Torres.
And I'm Joelle Poole.
And we'll see you on the Artist Forum.